The one bit that sticks with me is that you need to believe in your own ideas, be able to believe them to the point that you will be willing to push them even when others saying that you may not be right. They were born and they raised under the authoritarian regime in the 80s and 70s. There was no freedom to move across borders, to make business, to own foreign currencies. And I think this is one of the drivers behind looking for some of those decentralized, trustless methods of sending value and communication. I think this is this one bias that we have in the Western consumer market where we always start with dollars. If you really want to build a global app, you need to offer native currencies and the easy exchange between those currencies.
Welcome, everyone, to a new podcast of the New Money podcast, the show where we talk about crypto with the most amazing guests and hopefully find out how the future of money exactly looks like. And today we have with us in the show, and we did the little intro on how to pronounce the name. I hope I'm not making an absolute fool of myself. We've got Przemek from Ramp Network, who's currently leading that company as a co-founder and CEO. Great to have you.
Welcome. It's great to be here.
Awesome. Man, you have I think one of the more unusual trajectories of the Web3 founders and CEOs that we've been interviewing. You studied physics, you worked in management consulting, you got into Ramp and crypto rather early and kind of led the on-ramp, off-ramp space from the very beginning. Tell us a bit about that journey and how you got into it and how the last couple of years look for you.
Sure. I mean, I had years already. I think I first heard about Bitcoin in 2012 when I was still in high school years ago. I was doing a bit of research on sharing computer power for scientific projects. So I think SETI was crunching numbers about some scientific projects on my computer. I was just trying this for free. And at some point, someone on the forum said, we can actually make money on sharing computer power if we mine Bitcoins. And then that's how I was interested, what is it? How does it work? And I immediately got hooked very quickly. The idea of sending money to anyone around the world and having something of monetary value that is decentralized, that is not connected with any government entity that is issuing it. It just was sounds so crazy, but also it was very a definition of freedom. And when I was younger, I had a lot of those ideas that sometimes maybe idealistic ideas. We should strive for freedom and freedom of owning money and freedom of moving value. And that was something quite powerful.
Interesting.
And that's how it started.
Yeah, no, that makes sense. And stupid question, but I sometimes have this observation, do you think there's a correlation with interest in crypto and Bitcoin specifically to countries that have non-G free currencies, right? I think Poland has the zloty, countries that have been close to socialism and kind of these non-libertarian regimes in the past, like Soviet Union, of course. Do you think there's a deeper thought there and some sort of generational history, or what's your perspective?
I think absolutely. I mean, my parents, they were born and they raised under the authoritarian regime in the 80s and 70s when the Soviet Russia was basically dictating how Poland must behave. There was no freedom to move across borders, to make business, to own foreign currencies. And I think the skepticism into the role of government, I think still exists in the society. And I think this is one of the drivers behind looking for some of those decentralized, trustless methods of sending value and communication.
Interesting. Makes sense. And so we found this one thing, it's not on your LinkedIn, but we found it somewhere in the research that you've built a consumer-facing Ethereum product app before you started Ramp. Is this actually true? Is it fake news? And if yes, tell us about that.
So I think what you're referring to is that I worked for someone who was building a startup in Ethereum space, and that was somewhere around ICO craze. So I worked for my friend who I studied with physics, and we've been trying to build a peer-to-peer lending network. So basically, so for the lenders to be able to find borrowers through blockchain, connect them. It was very early days. It was so early, and it never really took off. But I learned a lot. First, how to how to build startups, what mistakes you can make at the beginning, but also what you can do well. But I think what was the most important learning is that there are big blockers before we can have actual true crypto adoption, Web3 adoption. And back in the days, I worked in this business together with my co-founder, Szymon, and we noted down like 3 main blockers. So first were well-built wallets with good UX. Second one was stablecoins. Stablecoins were still very early back then. It was very early back then for them. It was mostly MakerDAO issuing DAI. And the third thing was on-ramps and off-ramps. So basically how to get to the crypto and how to go from crypto. And that was 8 years ago. And we decided to tackle the third problem. And that's something what we've been doing and still doing up till this point in time.
Interesting. And yeah, let's jump into kind of like the journey with Ramp. And so you've had a number of different roles within the company, right? I think you've been CTO, you've been CPO, now you're CEO. Walk us through that journey and how the company and the organization evolved and how your personal role also evolved with that. And I always wonder, like, which one was most fun out of all these things you've done in the company?
I mean, like when there's like 5 people in the business, everyone is doing everything. So the labels are a bit superficious. But I started obviously as trying to code everything, and I because I had a bit of engineering background as well. So I built the first POC and and coded the app with first engineers that we hired, and it was a really a lot of fun. And I enjoyed this stage a lot, just working with 10 people in the same building, in the same room. It was crazy times. But then as we hired more and more people, I understood that maybe I'm not the best engineer. I don't have enough time to spend on everything and to hone this craft. And I moved more towards trying to understand how the product should look and work to best serve the user. And that's basically it's basically wearing a product management hat. And that was something that I really love. And I still, up to this point in the business, work very closely with product managers, because I think the founders should always stay close to the product, because this way is the only way that can make sure that you are building something that users actually want. And that's my way of doing things. I also took the mantle of CEO last year. A major change. After 7 years, the business grew from 2 people to 100. So it's definitely a different beast than when we started. It's much more organized and sometimes formalized. It's also become a regulated business. So it has a lot of. So the learning curve is definitely there. But now I think I finally starting to better understand what is required from me.
And what was the hardest thing to learn about being a CEO?
There's like a lot of those sayings. I think the one bit that it's really sticks with me is that you need to believe in your own ideas and be able to believe them to the point that you will be willing to push them even when others saying that you may not be right. And because in the end, you need to be responsible later for those decisions. So to be actually responsible, you need to do what you think is right, and don't rely on consensus, don't rely on what others are saying. You need to believe in yourself, believe in your own, and have a good understanding of your own thoughts and ideas. So that's for me.
When were you contrarian in founder mode, push something through over the last year or so?
I think a good example is when we've been deciding on the product strategy last year. We had different paths in front of us, and I decided to pursue going closer to the user, offering an actual user-facing account, and not everyone was behind the same direction. But I knew that this is my job to define the path forward.
Interesting. And take us into that product roadmap, product strategy session. What were the different paths ahead of you guys, and what made you excited about getting closer to the user?
So maybe a bit of context about our business, so listeners will understand. So what we're doing, we are on-ramping and off-ramping users from and to crypto applications. So for example, if you use MetaMask, you can buy crypto to crypto using Ramp. And we've been doing this for years already. And when you are sitting between the user and the other businesses, you can take one of two paths. So you can go closer to the business and offer maybe some supplementary services based on building more on the infrastructure side of things, or you can get closer to the user and focus more on the building for the user. And in this crossroad, sometimes focusing on B2B, maybe B2B expansion may be easier because you are there is many specializations that you can choose from. So you can focus on offering a very narrow service to the other business. And usually with consumer apps, you need to offer a much bigger experience. And there's quite often a very cutthroaty environment where you are competing with others with big budgets.
Interesting. No, it makes sense. I mean, you always there's always a saying, right, that consumer is the highest risk, highest reward category that you can play in, and you kind of never know if it works out. But if it works out, you win big. The biggest outcomes are still consumer outcomes, right? I mean, even in the brave new AI world. What drew you into like getting closer to the consumer? If these were the challenges, right, like a competitive environment, you need to have feature parity with well-financed competitors. Like, what was exciting about the opportunity for you?
I think we always, myself and my co-founder, we always felt like this is something what we want to do. We always imagined what would be the best way to introduce users to crypto for the first time would look like, and what apps they need, and what kind of experience is they actually looking for. And I think by observing this market for those so many years, I think we managed to distill down what is actually needed and what is missing. And that's for me what this was really driving me towards this direction. I really like to speak with users. I like to understand. I like to put myself in the user's shoes and try to understand what we need, what I need in this context. That was something what I really like to experience.
Yeah, cool. And in concrete kind of like product and feature terms, and is there something that you can already share that you think is missing and that you think you can deliver to the market and to the consumers?
Yeah, I think there's like one of those that I think consumers, I think the current market misses. As a user right now, if you use any of those new money apps, usually can only use dollar-based stablecoins. And I think this is this one bias that we have in the Western consumer market, where we always start with dollars, and especially those building apps from the US, they usually think first about the dollar, and they don't appreciate that there are other currencies in the world. And I think this is one of those that if you really want to build a global app, you need to offer native currencies and the easy exchange between those currencies to go to the local markets and actually offer a service that would be valuable for the one of our directions. I believe being local and on the ground is one of the prescription for success long term.
I think it's super interesting. I think like the counterfact and the pushback to that would probably be something like, especially in regions with weaker dollar currencies, people want to use stablecoins because they want to get out of that currency, right? And they want to get exposure to the dollar. How do you feel about that?
Oh, I mean, absolutely. Like I actually think this is one of the best use cases for stables and crypto today, is to just avoid weak currencies, countries with authoritarian regimes that put a lot of limitation on the how we can use money on, and to be able to move the money around, and it's a huge power. And getting into the dollar is something that many users are after. But I think that's the standard industry knowledge, and everyone is building this because of that. But what I'm proposing is that there are markets where users, they want to see first their own currency. And I think that's the context, for example, European context, where you want to see your local currency because you are living in the country that has a very strong financial system already, and you are not worried about inflation. You are not worried about other limitations on how you can use your stables. Your first intuition would be to actually see and use the stables that are denominated in the currencies, in the local currency.
How do you feel about these local European stable coins? I mean, the macro discussion has always been, will they win against the CBDC? What about the digital euro? Is this the path that Europe is taking? What's your kind of macro view on that playing out?
The fact that I would like to see it does not mean that what we see on the market fulfills this gap at the moment. I think that we've been speaking a lot in the industry about regulations. And in Europe, we have MiCA MiCA is European-wide regulatory framework to, among others, issue stablecoins. And I think it comes with its own trade-offs. So on one hand, many can say that it slows you down, makes issuance very hard, puts a lot of burden on the issuers. But on the other hand, it actually makes those stablecoins regulated to the same level of scrutiny as electronic money. It makes it, thanks to that, European financial institutions will be operating with those stablecoins. They have opened the door for many new players to operate in the space. And this level of higher scrutiny, it comes with on costs. But in the long run, I think it's gonna adoption in the long run, especially on the B2B2 side.
Gotcha. How are you guys thinking about MiCA? Are you guys already regulated? Are you in the process of acquiring a CASP?
Yeah, so we acquired CASP in December, so 2 months ago, in Ireland. It was a long process. It took us months. It wasn't easy and it wasn't cheap, as you can imagine. But right now, thanks to that, we can offer services to the entire European Union.
Yeah, interesting. And we're also currently in the process of getting a CASP, so I very much empathize, and we're still in the middle of that. So it is really something else if you compare it to the previous VASP regime. I think much more rigorous process. Why did you go for Ireland? Why not Poland, where I guess most of your people are?
You may not know that, but in Poland we don't have at the moment MiCA regulatory framework.
I do know it's like the last bastion, and they continue to fight, basically, right?
Yes, there is a political conflict between the two sides of the political spectrum, and they cannot get to the point where we have a bill that is actually in place, in force. So even if you would want to go in Poland, we couldn't.
Interesting. Like, I mean, for the non-Polish and non-MiCA expert listeners, like, what is that dispute about? Like, what is each side saying, and who's right in your opinion?
I think it's typical political battle. They are making the example out of this bill to fight between each other. In the end, who is hurt are the consumers and businesses, because you cannot get in Poland as a Polish business, as a crypto business. You would need to go somewhere else. It's inefficient, it's additional cost, but also you are moving outside of the country. And it's not good for the consumers, economy, and the entire industry.
One side of the debate is basically saying, like, let's adopt MiCA and just do it like all the other countries. And the other side is saying, like, let's not do it, it's too restrictive, something like that.
It's not that easy. To be honest, I wouldn't like to go into the political debates.
I appreciate that. Zooming out again, you had these like 3 things in mind that need to happen to move the world on chain: like on-ramps, better wallets, and stablecoins. And you started with fiat on-ramps, right? You kind of like led that market for almost a decade, and now you're adding the stablecoin part and trying to get closer to consumer. If you think about the consumer application, the consumer user experience and use cases that you want to go after, is this initially a payments-focused application? Given that you come from payments, right? And like lots of the stablecoin stuff has been remittance focused and cross-border payments focused, or is it like a broader kind of like everyday on-chain finance UX idea that you're pursuing?
I think there are millions of users who never used crypto before, and they even don't want to use crypto, but they can get benefits of using financial apps built on chain. And I think that's the future. If you can have everyday account that you put in hands of the users and you power it up with on-chain features, it's completely a game changer compared to where we are today.
Yeah. No, thanks for kind of like the update and the primer on the product strategy and where you guys are headed. And I wanted to spend 2 minutes on macro. What's your take on the bear market? What's your take on the price action? How do you guys feel about it? Do you notice it within the business? What's your view?
After 8 years, I stopped looking at the price, and my friends and my family is often asking me, "Hey, Przemek, is the Bitcoin going up or down?" And I say, "I don't know. What price of it is it today?" And I still don't do it. I'm not trading on the daily basis. I think it takes a lot of attention and energy to trade. I think it's completely fine, but this is just not for me. I prefer to stay oriented on the long term. So rather in the hodlers category.
What are your favorite assets if you were to talk to Bitcoin or like crypto noob and you'd give them your advice on top 3 assets to hodl? Where's your heart at?
I mean, I'm always bullish on Ethereum. It was always something that I got very quickly hooked up with. And this is, I think, ecosystem and community that builds and delivers a lot. And I think that's the one that is still strong. And with new chains being connected to the main chain on Ethereum, is going to be only growing ever further. I'm not sure about the price of the native token, but the ecosystem itself, it's definitely going to be more and more useful.
Interesting. And it seems that the latest meta, and especially for Ethereum, is agentic finance, right? And this idea that agents will pay on chain and they will need programmable money, and humans made of code need money made of code. Do you underwrite that? Like, have you guys looked into it a bit?
We did, of course. I think it's definitely the future. I think AI is going to redefine basically any industry, and it's going to change completely human lives over the next years. And payments is also this category. But I think right now, today, I think it's still a bit too early to put this in the hands of the consumer in terms of the personal finance, for example.
Hey, man, thank you very much for the conversation. I'd love to wrap it up with a bit of a quickfire round where, like, 2 or 3 questions that I'm going to shoot you, and we'd love to get a short answer. If you had to be the CEO of one other European fintech company, which one would you pick?
I love Wise. Foothold in any country lets you to move money around. I'm an avid user myself.
I mean, in many ways, the original global payments, friction removers before this whole thing was on vogue. Do you have New Year's resolutions?
Getting fit. Who doesn't?
What's the one feature you think almost every crypto application is missing or underinvesting in?
Well, on-ramping and off-ramping. The flows of on-ramping and getting money to the wallets and to the crypto accounts, it's still quite often not great. And I think we have a long way to go to reach the point when everyone can easily use this ecosystem. And I think when you're building a consumer application, you often think about the features that you want to add and treat on-ramping and off-ramping as a necessary evil or like some kind of service that needs to be there. But you are not focusing on optimizing the funnel, not optimizing conversion. And I think there's like huge pool of potential there.
Yeah. Well, go and buy it from Ramp. Thank you, man, for joining us today. Appreciate you taking the time. And thanks everyone who's listened. Appreciate you tuning in. Thanks for joining. See you soon.
Thank you. Thank you for that.